Okay, so we're all using AI literally every day, right? In our phones, our cars, everywhere. But how do we actually know if any of it's any good? I mean, really, how can we be sure it's safe and helpful and not just, well, totally broken? That's the huge question we're going to dig into today. Let's get right into it. You've probably seen this happen, right? A company announces this incredible new AI. In the lab, it's a total genius, gets a perfect score on every test. Then they release it out into the wild and bam, it just completely faceplants. It's kind of like the ultimate, it worked on my computer problem, but, with way bigger stakes. So what is going on here? Why does this keep happening? So if you go and ask an AI team, hey, how do you know this thing works? 9 times out of 10, you're going to hear something like this. And, it sounds fine, it sounds logical. But here's the thing. That single sentence, that one way of thinking is the reason behind so many major AI disasters. It creates this huge, massive blind spot where catastrophic problems can hide in plain sight, right up until it's too late. So, to fix this, we need a better toolkit. We need to see the whole picture. We're going to start by talking about that evaluation blind spot. Then we'll walk through the 4 main types of evaluation: automated, human, hybrid, and observational. And finally, we'll see how to put it all together. All right, first up, the evaluation blind spot. And this really gets to the core of the problem. A single metric is just never going to be enough. I mean, think about it. You could have a chatbot that gets a 99% on some grammar test. Great, right? But what if that same chatbot is also super rude to your customers, or just completely unhelpful? That A+ score doesn't matter anymore, does it? Relying on just one number is like trying to understand a whole movie by looking at a single frame. You're going to miss the entire story. Okay, let's dive into our first tool, which is probably the one you've heard of: automated evaluation. This is all about speed, scale, and its limits. This is the workhorse, the go-to for most teams. It's fast, it's cheap, it's super important, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. So what is it exactly? Well, automated evaluation is pretty straightforward. It's basically using a computer program to grade your AI's homework. You've got a big data set with all the correct answers, and your program just zips through checking how many the AI got right. The key detail? No humans are involved in the actual scoring. That's what makes it so lightning fast. And this isn't just one thing. It comes in a few different flavors. You've got your basic rule-based checks, super simple stuff like, did the AI leak a social security number? Yes or no? Then you move up to statistical metrics, things like F1 score, which are a bit more sophisticated. And then you have the really new, exciting stuff, model-based evaluation. This is where you use one powerful AI, like a GPT-4, to act as the judge for another AI. It's amazing for catching subtle things, but, and this is a big but, that judge AI has its own opinions and biases, so you have to be careful. So here's the deal with automated evals. The superpower is just insane scale. You can evaluate millions of AI outputs for pennies, literally. It's incredibly powerful. But the kryptonite, its big weakness, is that it only measures what you tell it to measure. An AI can get really, really good at passing the test without actually being smart or helpful. It's like that kid in school who memorizes the answer key but has no idea what any of it actually means. Okay, so automation is great, but it's blind to a lot of stuff. So how do we see what the machines can't? Well, that brings us to type 2, human evaluation. This is all about capturing those things that are, hard to define, but you know them when you see them. Things like nuance, tone, creativity, or just good old common sense. And the definition is exactly what it sounds like. You get actual people, real human beings, to look at the AI's output and make a judgment call. Is this good? Is this helpful? Is this safe? And look, it's slow, it's expensive, it can be complicated, but sometimes it is the only way to know for sure if your AI is actually doing what you want it to. Now, not all human reviewers are the same. On one hand, you have annotation-based reviews. This is where you might use a crowdsourcing platform to get a bunch of people to quickly rate things, maybe for 50 cents a pop. This is great for simple stuff like, is this response polite? But on the other hand, what if your AI is generating medical diagnoses? You can't just ask anybody off the street. You need an expert review. You need to hire actual doctors, and that can cost hundreds of dollars per review. It's expensive for sure, but when the stakes are that high, you just have to do it. This is probably the single biggest challenge with human evaluation. This quote says it all. If your raters can't agree with each other, their individual judgments are telling you more about evaluator variance than about system quality. What does that mean? It means if you give the same AI response to 2 different experts and they give you 2 totally different scores, who do you believe?
If there's no consistency, you're not actually measuring your AI. You're just measuring the random opinions of your reviewers. That's a huge problem you have to solve.
Okay, let's recap. We've got fast but kind of dumb automation on one side and slow but super smart humans on the other. It feels like you have to choose, right? Well, what if you didn't have to? Enter Type 3, hybrid evaluation, which is all about getting the best of both worlds.
And honestly, this chart shows why this approach is so powerful. Look at this. To check 100,000 AI outputs, pure automation is cheap, like $500, but the accuracy is pretty mediocre. Now, pure human review gets you amazing accuracy, like 98%, but it costs a fortune, 80 grand. But check out the hybrid approach in the middle. For about $4,500, you get 97% accuracy. You're getting basically the same quality as the pure human approach for a tiny, tiny fraction of the price. That is a no-brainer.
So, how does this magic actually work? It's a really smart workflow. First, you use automation as a coarse filter. It does all the easy work, screening for the obvious, clear-cut problems. Then, you take just the tough stuff, the really ambiguous cases, and send only those to your expensive human experts. And here's the final, brilliant step. You take the decisions from those humans and use them to train your automated system to get smarter. It's this awesome feedback loop that gets better over time.
All right, so far, everything we've talked about happens in the lab, before you launch. But what happens after your AI is out there, interacting with real people? That brings us to our final tool, Type 4, Observational Evaluation. This is all about learning from what your users actually do in the wild. And the concept is so simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. You're using actual user behavior as your quality signal. You stop looking at made-up test cases, and instead, you look at what real people are doing with your product. This is the ultimate ground truth. It's not what people say they'll do in a survey, it's what they actually do when nobody's watching. And this real-world data comes in two main types. On one side, you have explicit signals. This is the obvious stuff. A user gives a thumbs up, or a thumbs down, or leaves a rating. The signal is super clear, but you just don't get that much of it. On the other side, you have implicit signals. This is stuff you have to infer, like how long someone spends reading an answer, or if they had to rephrase their question. The signal here is way fuzzier. Does a long pause mean they're happy or confused? But you have a ton of this data to work with.
So again, we have a classic trade-off. The superpower here is undeniable. It's the ground truth. It is the most honest feedback you will ever get on your AI's performance. But its kryptonite is that it's a lagging indicator. It's like driving by looking only in the rearview mirror. It tells you what already happened, but it can't warn you about a disaster that's right in front of you. You only get this data after you've already shipped.
Okay, let's bring it all home. We need to build the complete picture by using the full evaluation toolkit. We've got our 4 types: automated, human, hybrid, and observational. And the key takeaway here is that you don't pick one. They're not alternatives. They're complementary tools, and you really need to use them together.
But this is where it gets kind of scary. When you look at how most teams actually work today, it's not great. Almost 3/4, 73% of teams are only using one of these methods. Just one. That's insane. It's like telling a carpenter to build a house, but only giving them a hammer. You're guaranteed to have some serious blind spots. And here's why that matters so much. This isn't just academic. The data shows that teams who use multiple evaluation types, who use more tools from the toolkit, are twice as likely to catch major problems before they ever impact a single user. Twice as likely. That's a huge difference. So what can you do? It doesn't have to be complicated. Here's a simple playbook for a minimum viable evaluation program. 1. Use automated evaluation constantly, every day while you're developing. 2. Before you launch anything big, bring in human evaluation for a deep check. 3. The moment you deploy, turn on observational evaluation and start learning from your users. That's it. That's the foundation. So this all comes back to a single question. As AI gets woven into every part of our lives, we just can't afford to have these massive blind spots. So I'll leave you with this. Take a look at the AI you're building, or even the AI you're using every day, and ask, is it really seeing the whole picture? Because finding the right answer to that question might just be the most important thing we can do.